Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, one triune God. Amen. This is the fifth Sunday after the great feast of Pentecost. This is a season when the Church celebrating the commemoration and the presence of the Holy Spirit dwelling among us. It is not that Holy Spirit is not among us when we are not celebrating it, but this is a particular season of celebration for that purpose. And this also within the past week, we celebrated the feast of Saints Peter and Paul, the 12 apostles. Then again, day before yesterday, we celebrated feast of none other than our own Saint Thomas. And today, we listen to the Gospel according to Saint Luke, where he narrates the famous incident we all have repeatedly heard and we have been preached about, we have been talking about this miracle. It is known as the Jesus feeding the 5,000. Now, Jesus took his apostles or his inner circle on a personal private retreat. He went away so that he can spend some time with his disciples. The narrator specifically says that he withdrew privately to Bethsaida. And when the crowds discovered or found out that Jesus is there, they also sought him and followed him to Bethsaida. He didn't ask them to leave him alone. I'm trying to have a private retreat, some meditation time. Luke says he welcomed them and continued to teach them. I don't think the disciples were very happy about it, because when it was afternoon and evening, they were worried about how are you going to feed these people, because they are far away from somewhere they can get some food. So they approached Jesus saying, we have to, because they come with a solution. They are not coming to Jesus merely with a problem. They come to him saying, the day is coming to a close. Send the crowd away so that they may go into the surrounding villages and countryside to lodge and get provisions. We are here in a deserted place. That's why I said the prayer not only has a problem, but a solution also. So they are not telling Jesus, we have this problem, we have this great crowd with us. How are we going to feed them? Or how are they, not even how are we going to feed them, how are they going to eat something? I think this is what we all do. We come to God, to the church, or to the prayer, specifically asking what God has to do. It could be anything. I want my child to become a doctor, or an engineer, or whatever it is. Or I need this, I'm going to buy a house in that neighborhood, or I have put advance on that house, make sure that I get a loan. All these kind of very specifically targeted prayers. This is what the disciples were doing at that time. They are here, get rid of them. So what did Jesus say? His response was, you feed them. ഈ മലയാളത്തിൽ പറയല്ലേ, ഈ മിണ്ടാതിരുന്നത് ചിലപ്പോൾ അത് പറയുകയില്ലായിരുന്നല്ലേ, ഈ വടി തിരിഞ്ഞ് കുന്തമായി എന്നൊക്കെ പറയുന്ന മാതിരി. ഈ വെറുതെ മിണ്ടാതിരുന്നിരുന്നെങ്കിൽ ജീസസ് തന്നെ, യേശു തന്നെ എന്തെങ്കിലും ഒരു പരിഹാരം അതിന് കണ്ടേനെ. ഇത് എന്ന് തോണ്ടി മേടിച്ചു ഇവരെ പറഞ്ഞുവിട്, ഇവർക്ക് വല്ലതും കഴിക്കണമെന്ന്. നമ്മൾ പലപ്പോഴും നമ്മുടെയൊക്കെ വീടുകളിലും ചെയ്യുന്ന ഒരു പണിയുണ്ട്. ഈ അതിഥികൾ വരുന്നുണ്ട്, എന്നാൽ ഇനിയും ചെല്ല്, സമയമായില്ലേ, നിങ്ങൾക്കങ്ങ് ഇച്ചിരി ദൂരം നടക്കേണ്ടതല്ലേ, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ പഴയ നാട്ടിൻപുറത്താണെങ്കിൽ ഒരു ചൂട്ടുകറ്റയൊക്കെ കത്തിച്ച് കൈ കൊണ്ട് കൊടുക്കും. ഇനി അവിടെ വരെ ഇത് ഇറ്റ്സ് ട്രൈങ് ടു ഗെറ്റ് റിഡ് ഓഫ് ദ പീപ്പിൾ ഹൂ ഹാസ് എ പ്രോബ്ലം. ഒരു ഹ്യൂമൻ ടെൻഡൻസി. ഐ എം നോട്ട് ട്രൈങ് ടു ബ്ലെയിം എനിബഡി. ഓൾ ഓഫ് us do those kind of things. Especially if you are in a village where you don't have access to any amenities. Now here, if you get a guest, we can order a pizza or get some Chinese takeout. We have different kinds of solutions. And here, Jesus is telling these disciples, 12 of them, you feed them. It is not a request or a suggestion. He is just instructing. They are taken back because since they went on a retreat to spend time privately with Jesus, they must have come prepared for their own food. They must have had their own food packed. But they were not willing to share that with anybody else. That's why they want to send the crowd away. And now Jesus is turning the tables around and saying, okay, we have to feed them. He is not even using the word we have to feed them. You feed them. Now they are coming up with the problem alone. Now they are leaving the solution to Jesus. Not that. Now they are not coming back with a problem and solution. What are we going to do? Because we have only 5 loaves and some fish. Unless we are to go and buy food for all these people. See, even that's a very impractical solution. Even in a small town, or even if you go to New York City, it's not a small town, one of the biggest cities in the world. If you want to feed 5,000 people in a shot, and this is not 5,000, it says that 5,000 without counting women and children. So it could be a lot more. If you want to buy food to feed 5,000 plus people from a city of the magnitude of New York, I don't think it will be possible. You cannot call Pizza Hut and say, I need 5,000 pizzas by 7 p.m. I don't think all the Pizza Hut branches around this particular area will be able to supply that. So even they are trying to say, unless we go and buy food, even if Jesus gives the money, okay, here is the money, whatever you want, go take and buy it, it won't be possible. So here, he is specifically, then they were trying to, it's all, we can easily identify with the situation, especially the ladies. Sometimes the men will bring a couple of guests and said, oh, I have brought 2 people for dinner. That may be the day, one of the rare days you don't have anything at home. And the men usually don't bother. Okay, you give them something. I have my own sisters-in-law complain to me about me randomly bringing other Tirumenis and asking them to give food. But here, when Jesus says, or the disciples tell him they have only 5 loaves, unless they have to go and buy. Jesus is not asking, go and buy something. He said, bring what you have. I think that I would say that is the miracle part. When God to act for miracles, we have to offer what we have. We have to exhaust our possibilities. That is when God intervenes. So remember about this. When the disciples were trying to avoid their responsibility, trying to push these people who doesn't have anything to eat away so that they can have that 5 loaves for themselves and their teacher, Jesus is demanding, you bring what you have. In all possibility, some of them at least would have got worried. Even if Jesus decided to feed only few, that means they were losing their food, the disciples. I don't think they were finding that as a happy solution. So here, now when he brings his own food, whatever they have, to the extent, he didn't tell them to keep a couple of loaves for you. He said, bring me all the 5. And then he gives thanks and asks them to serve. We don't see the bread multiplying within the basket. But they keep on serving. And it fed. We can put any number there because it says it has got 5,000 men alone, excluding the women and children. Of course, there is another interpretation which is not considered the appropriate one. But sometimes when I think about that aspect, like I have read commentaries saying that people were sharing whatever they had. I would say that's a better solution. If Jesus was able to do that, that was better. Because, see, Jesus being the second person in the Trinity, and as we say in our creed, who is the cause of the entire creation. So for him to create few loaves of bread, if he can create the whole universe, creating bread is not an issue. But if, I want to underline that word, if by his sharing or his disciples sharing, he let whoever gathered there, human beings with their own free will, to share whatever they have. And what was the end result? After all this sharing, they had 12 baskets full. Interesting return, right? They invested 5 loaves of bread. Now they get a return of 12 baskets full. So most probably they could spend the entire month in retreat. See, now when you think about it, of course it is not about what happened at that time. But as a community of faithful, a community who claims that we are true followers of Jesus Christ, this is a challenge we always feel. Not merely feeding. Whenever we find other people in difficulty, our responsibility is not about getting out of the situation as early as possible and keep ourselves safe. It could be Black Lives Matter. It could be people suffering from COVID. Of course, we have a large number of our people who are on the front line working with the COVID patients. But think about that. If we are not in a job situation, if you were not a nurse or a doctor or a respiratory therapist or one of those medical persons or even like people like MTA workers who had to on a daily basis have to deal with public in that phase, would we risk our lives so that we can serve them? That's a great challenge we have. But this is what Jesus is asking us. Offer everything you have. and let the miracle transform you and whatever you offer. So as we celebrate this season, celebrate these Sundays again and again, we narrate different miracle stories and different events that took place during Jesus' time in his earthly ministry. Remember, each time we read and reminded of an incident, we are called to be his partners, to be his body, because we are his body now. Church is the body. Church doesn't mean Tirumeni and Achan alone. We can think about the structural church, but as body of Jesus Christ, each and every one of us are responsible to be his body and to be at the service of the world at large. May God bless us all. Thank you.